the public meeting, and it was productive, and we're agreed to, what I thought the best part was that we agreed to have future meetings, hopefully early next week. And so we had a preliminary discussion of some of the topics. I think the best thing, though, is to have those meetings and have compromise back and forth, and that's what we're willing to do. The Speaker and I are on the same page in that regard, and hopefully we'll make some progress. I don't think it's a good idea when you're negotiating to, talk about what's off the table or lock into your positions when you have to compromise. That's the nature of compromise. So we're going to begin that process in greater intensity, hopefully next week. The position that the Speaker and I agree on is that what's going on now is not good for business in Illinois. It's not good business practices to not have a budget and be downgraded. It's not good business practices to be spending $38.5 billion when you only have 33. It's not good business to not pay your lottery ticket winners because they're going to stop buying the tickets. And that's all because we don't have a budget. And so that's what we have to focus on. The other items that the governor has raised, we've always said we're willing to talk about and we're willing to compromise on. And so that's what we hope to do next week. Are there any questions?
What was productive about this meeting?
The fact that there was a meeting. I quite frankly have no idea what the governor was expecting us to do between last May and now. We passed a budget. We said it wasn't balanced. We said we have to figure out how to balance it. He vetoed the spending authority. 90% of the budget's being spent because of one section of the budget that he passed in court orders, but it's out of whack. And this concept that the budget is our problem and he's just the governor, it doesn't make sense. So we're all concerned about the budget equally, both Democrats and Republicans. So the fact that we had a meeting is the most important thing that happened today, and an agreement to have another one next week, which is progress.
Was there any movement on the municipals bill? So like free up money for the municipals, was there any movement on that?
Well, if you're talking about an appropriation bill, the House is in session tomorrow. If they have an agreement and pass a bill, then I'll bring the Senate back. Senator Rauner and I would agree to come back as soon as possible to bring the Senate back to pass a bill that they would pass. So we'll see if they have an agreement by tomorrow.
How can you had some disagreements with Leader Durkin over the blame game. Can the negotiation be fruitful if people are still pointing fingers?
Yeah, I just think people are, the first thing we have to do is see if we can even agree on what the facts are before we even get to the part where we disagree on and having different opinions. And so a lot of the things that Representative Durkin said I think were not accurate, and it's not helpful. So I think what we need to do at our future meetings is to have some fact-checking and just see if we can start off with the same set of numbers and then decide how to solve the problem.
Cameras and microphones help hurt and how?
I'm sorry?
Cameras and microphones today, did they help the process?
Well, I think the fact is that the groups that asked for us to have the meeting should be commended because it resulted in the governor agreeing to have a meeting. I have indicated I'd be willing to meet anytime, anywhere. So I think it's very helpful for people to see that we're here and for us to state our position. I'd be willing to meet in public or in private, but the fact of the matter is people have to, in a meeting, they have to compromise. They have to move off of a previously held position, which is probably done a little easier in a private meeting.
But has anything about this situation changed since the meeting? Did the meeting move the ball forward at all?
I think we started to talk about some areas where we exchanged our views, our differing views, so people start to understand where the other person's coming from. It was not that long of a meeting, but it was a good start, and again, the most important thing is there's an agreement to have another one soon.
Why did it end? Why are you done now? It was pretty quick.
Some people are not that talkative. Senator Berdonio's voice is strained as well, so.
What does that say about the overall situation that you have to celebrate having a meeting?
Yeah, well, it's very dire. We haven't had a budget, and that's why I'm critical of the fact we haven't had meetings, and so that's why I'm glad we're here.
Why not have this meeting be a little longer? I mean, less than an hour, you guys were in there. Why was it so short?
Yeah, I think that there'll be a need for staff to be available the next time we meet to perhaps exchange some proposals back and forth. That's what I would think would be very helpful.
President, the governor talked about 3 reforms that he wants, and that seems to have been, perhaps, I don't know, a rate that, did he back away at all on tort reform, quote unquote, and workers' compensation? I mean, I know they were talked about, but he said we need these 3.
No, we talked about workers' comp probably the most extensively in our meeting today. So there's always been an agreement that there's more we can do in workers' comp reform. In fact, both the Senate and the House have passed bills. So that's a fruitful area of compromise.
What was your reaction to the governor's earlier saying that the redistricting and term limits were easy votes, and those were easy votes to get done?
Well, I don't know. I think perhaps he's talking about if you poll them without people knowing the details, they might be popular, and that's probably what he's referring to. But those are constitutional amendments. We take those up in the second year. There's other constitutional amendments in those categories that we'll be taking up. We've passed redistricting reform in the past that wasn't successful in the House, and so those are things which we will definitely be talking about.
The last meeting was in May. Has anything changed between that meeting and this one? It didn't seem like from the opening remarks that anyone was willing to do any sort of compromise. It's the same talking points we heard back in May.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're right. It's the fact that we believe, the Speaker and I believe that this budget is not just ours, it's the governor's and the Republican leaders as well, and it's the failure to have one is having a really adverse effect every day on the state, and that we think we should start talking about the budget. And again, there hasn't been any movement in that regard from the Republicans. So we because they want to talk about their other issues. And so we say we are willing to talk about the other issues. The problem has been there hasn't even been any meetings. And so that's why I'm more optimistic. And we all know that even if we did have an agreement today, we wouldn't vote on it until next year when there's a lesser vote requirement to pass a bill.
President, can you help us
What
get
incentive do the Democrats have to discuss Rauner's agenda once he gives you a budget?
Well, when you compromise, you do things at the same time. I understand that. We just want to emphasize to the governor that the budget is not just our problem, it's his problem as well. Yes, ma'am.
could you just help us to understand? You've noted that there haven't been any meetings. We've all noted that. I still can't seem to understand how 5 people can't get together in, 7 months' time? How is that the case?
You know, I didn't think it would be appropriate for me to call the meetings. I thought that the governor should be the one to do that. It's his first year, and it's an unusual situation, and he's learning. So let's just be happy that he's willing to have a future meeting. So one more.
We have the primary in the spring. After today's meeting, after not having one since May, after the inaction at the Capitol this fall, this spring, let's say I'm a voter and primaries around the corner, why would anybody want to have the same people come back? I mean, are you guys afraid that all this progress you guys are putting together could be erased come primaries?
Well, look, I'm not focused on the elections, quite frankly. I think we have to worry about getting the state budget passed. And that's something which I'm willing to come in and meet any day, come into sessions, special sessions, whatever is necessary. And we hope to do it as soon as possible when we come back in the first half of the year. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean,